Hi, it's Pastor Josh from First Baptist De Queen. Thank you for joining us as we continue to read through God's Word every single day. Today we are beginning in Deuteronomy chapter 11. This is Moses reminding the people of all God's done for them and giving them a charge before he dies. You shall therefore love the Lord your God and keep His charge, His statutes, His rules, and His commandments always. And consider today, since I am not speaking to your children who have not known or seen it, consider the discipline of the Lord your God, His greatness, His mighty hand and His outstretched arm, His signs and His deeds that He did in Egypt to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and to all his land. And what He did to the army of Egypt, to their horses and to their chariots, how He made the water of the Red Sea flow over them as they pursued after you, and how the Lord has destroyed them to this day. And what He did to you in the wilderness until you came to this place, and what He did to Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, son of Reuben, how the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their households, their tents, and every living thing that followed them in the midst of Israel, the things that followed them in their rebellion. For your eyes have seen all the great work of the Lord that He did. You shall therefore keep the whole commandment that I command you today, that you may be strong and go in and take possession of the land that you are going over to possess, and that you may live long in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to give to them and to their offspring, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land that you are entering to take possession of is not the land of Egypt from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and irrigated it like a garden of vegetables. But the land that you are going over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water by the rain from heaven, a land that the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So He's saying God is providing you something far better than what you had in Egypt. And yet you guys always wanted to go back to Egypt. God's giving you something better. Verse 13, and if you will indeed obey my commandments that I command you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve Him with all your heart and with all your soul, He will give the rain for your land in its season, the early rain and the later rain, that you may gather in your grain and your wine and your oil. And He will give grass in your fields for your livestock, and you shall eat and be full. Take care lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. Then the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you, and He will shut up the heavens, so that there will be no rain, and the land will yield no fruit, and you will perish quickly off the good land that the Lord is giving you. You shall therefore lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes. You shall teach them to your children, talking of them when you are sitting in your house, and when you are walking by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, that your days and the days of your children may be multiplied in the land that the Lord swore to your fathers to give them, as long as the heavens are above the earth. For if you will be careful to do all this commandment that I command you to do, loving the Lord your God, walking in all His ways, and holding fast to Him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations greater and mightier than you. So if you follow the Lord, He will take care of you and give you what He has promised here. Verse 24, every place on which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours. Your territory shall be from the wilderness to the Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, to the western sea. No one shall be able to stand against you. The Lord your God will lay the fear of you and the dread of you on all the land that you shall tread, as He promised you. So God will take care of all of it if you simply follow Him. Verse 26, see, I'm setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, and the curse, if you do not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside from the way that I am commanding you today, to go after other gods that you have not known, and when the Lord your God brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of it, you shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not beyond the Jordan, west of the road, toward the going down of the sun in the land of the Canaanites, who live in the Arabah opposite Gilgal, beside the oak of Moreh? For you are to cross over the Jordan, to go in to take possession of the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And when you possess it and live in it, you shall be careful to do all the statutes and the rules that I am setting before you today. Chapter 12. These are the statutes. So he has just said, there will be a blessing. You follow me, there will be a curse if you don't. The blessing, obviously, you receive what I'm giving you. The curse, you will be removed from what I'm giving you. These are the statutes and rules that you shall be careful to do in the land that the Lord the God of your fathers has given you to possess all the days that you live on the earth. You shall surely destroy all the places where the nations whom you shall dispossess serve their gods, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. You shall tear down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their asherim with fire. You shall chop down the carved images of their gods and destroy their name out of that place. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. So clean up all the fake God worship. Get rid of it. Remove it from this place that I'm giving you, from the gift. Verse 5. But you shall seek the place that the Lord your God will choose out of all your tribes to put His name and make His habitation there. There you shall go, and there you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and your contribution that you present, your vow offerings, your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your households, in all that you undertake in which the Lord your God has blessed you. So all that you undertake to do in following the Lord will result in rejoicing if you follow Him. Verse 8. Hang on. Verse 8. You shall not do according to all that you are doing here today. Everyone doing whatever is right in his own eyes, for you have not yet come to the rest and to the inheritance that the Lord your God is giving you. But when you go over the Jordan and live in the land that the Lord your God is giving you to inherit, and when He gives you rest from all your enemies around so that you live in the safety, then to the place that the Lord your God will choose to make His name dwell there, there you shall bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes and contribution, and the contribution that you present, and all your finest vow offerings that you vow to the Lord. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God, you and your sons and your daughters, your male servants and your female servants, and the Levite that is within your towns, since he has no portion or inheritance with you. Take care that you do not offer your burnt offerings at any place that you see, but at the place that the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all that I am commanding you. And that becomes a problem later, because they began to set up these high places and worship wherever they wanted, and God's saying, no, you got to bring it to this place, this one place, so that it is a focus that you're intentionally leaving and going here. It's a sacrifice of time. It's a sacrifice of effort to go and do this thing. Your worship shouldn't be something that you make easy, that isn't a sacrifice, because offering to the Lord should be a sacrifice. It should be an intentional offering to give to Him, a well thought out one as well. Verse 15, however, you may slaughter and eat meat within any of your towns as much as you desire, according to the blessing of the Lord your God that He has given you. The unclean and the clean may eat of it, as of the gazelle and as of the deer. Only you shall not eat the blood, you shall pour it. So he says the unclean and the clean may eat of it. Unclean people, clean people, they can eat of the land. He's saying you're not restricted in that way. Verse 17, you may not eat, back up. Only you shall not eat the blood, you shall pour it out on the earth like water. You may not eat within your towns the tithe of your grain, or of your wine, or of your oil, or the firstborn of your herd, or of your flock, or any of the vow offerings that you vow, or your free will offerings, or the contribution that you present. But you shall eat them before the Lord your God in the place that the Lord your God will choose, you and your son and your daughter, your male servant and your female servant, and the Levite who is within your towns. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God in all that you undertake. Take care that you do not neglect the Levite as long as you live in your land. So take care of those who are doing the work of the Lord. Verse 20. When the Lord your God enlarges your territory as He has promised you, and you say, I will eat meat because you crave meat, you may eat meat whenever you desire, if the place that the Lord your God will choose to put His name there is too far from you, then you may kill any of your herd or your flock which the Lord has given you, as I have commanded you, and you may eat within your towns whenever you desire. So this is God giving compassion on the people wherever they happen to live. Verse 22, just as the gazelle and the deer is eaten, so you may eat of it. The unclean and the clean alike may eat of it. So whether you're unclean or whether you're clean, in whatever spiritual state you're in, you can eat this stuff. Verse 23, only be sure that you do not eat the blood, for the blood is the life, and you shall not eat the life within the flesh. The blood was meant to be used for covenants and not just for simple consummation. It should be set apart and be remembered for what it provides. You shall not eat it. You shall pour it out on the earth like water. You shall not eat it, that all may go well with you and with your children after you. When you do what is right in the sight of the Lord, but the holy things that are due from you and your vow offerings you shall take, and you shall choose, and you shall go to the place that the Lord will choose, and offer your burnt offerings, the flesh and the blood on the altar of the Lord your God. The blood of your sacrifices shall be poured out on the altar of the Lord your God, but the flesh you may eat. Be careful to obey all these words that I command you, that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever. When you do what is good and right in the sight of the Lord your God, when the Lord your God cuts off before you the nations whom you go in to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, take care that you be not ensnared to follow them after they have been destroyed before you, and that you do not inquire about their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods, that I also may do the same? So don't try to worship their gods, and don't try to worship your God in the way they worship their gods, because it was detestable and gross. Verse 31, you shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. For every abominable thing that the Lord hates, they have done for their gods. For they even burn their sons and their daughters in the fire to their gods. They sacrifice their kids in their worship. Verse 32, everything that I command you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not add to it or take from it. Let's go to Luke chapter 8, verse 22. One day, Jesus, got into a boat with his disciples, and he said to them, let us go across to the other side of the lake. So they set out. And as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down on the lake, and they were filling with water and were in danger. And they went and woke him, saying, Master, Master, we are perishing. And he awoke and rebuked the wind and the raging waves, and they ceased, and there was a calm. He said to them, where is your faith? And they were afraid, and they marveled, saying to one another, who then is this that he commands even winds and water, and they obey him? They had Jesus with them in the storm, and yet they feared the storm. And so they woke Jesus out of fear to protect them. They said, we're dying here, don't you care? He rebukes the wind and the waves, says, stop, and then he looks to them and says, guys, where's your faith at? I'm right here. It's always safer to be in the storm with Jesus than out of it without him. Verse 26. Let's see. Then they sailed to the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he had lived in a house, he had not lived in a house but among the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him and said with a loud voice, what have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me. So recognition of who Jesus is by this demon-possessed man. For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many a time it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the desert. He had been bound by chains by the community. They had cast him out, but Jesus had sought him out. Jesus then asked him, what is your name? And he said, Legion, for many demons had entered him, and they begged him not to command them to depart into the abyss. Now a large herd of pigs was feeding there on a hillside, and they begged him to let them enter these, so he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and drowned. When the herdsmen saw what had happened, they fled and told in the city and in the country. They told it in the city and in the country. Then the people went out to see what had happened, and they came to Jesus and found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Here's a guy they bound. Here's a guy they cast out, sitting with Jesus, having a sane conversation, completely dispossessed of the demons. And those who had seen it told them how the demon-possessed man had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked him to depart from them. for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home and declare how much God has done for you." And he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city how much Jesus had done for him. You see, normally Jesus tells these guys, don't say anything. But as best we can tell from the Gospels, Jesus does not return to this area of this region of the world. And so he's sending this man to this region of the world as the only witness at this point. And so the man goes out there and begins to tell his testimony to everybody he knows. Psalm 70. To the choir master of David for the memorial offering. Verse 1. Make haste, O God, to deliver me. O Lord, make haste to help me. Let them be put to shame and confusion who seek my life. Let them be turned back and brought to dishonor who delight in my hurt. Let them turn back because of their shame, who say, Aha, aha! May all who seek you rejoice and be glad in you. May those who love your salvation say evermore, God is great. But I am poor and needy. Hasten to help me, O God. You are my help and my deliverer. O Lord, do not delay. So God, take care of those who seek you out. Protect me who is being attacked, and I will constantly rejoice over you. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 4. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who brings shame is like rottenness to the bones. We honor each other in being faithful to the Lord and living out that faithfulness always. Thank you for joining us as we read through God's Word. I hope you'll come back again tomorrow as we keep journeying through God's Word to see all